Hello, Internet. My fake name is Chillmonger. I read Amazing Spider Man, issue 836 of this comic book that began in 1962 by Steve Ditko and Stan Lee. I like how he began, actually, before I even get there. Steve Ditko and Stan Lee did not write it. Nick Spencer and Oscar Bazaldua drew it. Where was it? It was over here where it goes, meanwhile, blah, 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 blah. Also, meanwhile, blah, 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 blah. Miguel. Yeah, that was funny, man, because that's how I talk. And you got to keep things light. And then you get heavy, like Dr. Doom up in the city. The question that I immediately ask is, where is every New York hero? Because Captain Marvel has an apartment here. FF, Avengers, is all explained away in the very next page. Okay, that's all it takes. They didn't bring up the X-Men, but obviously they're up to some Krakoan goodness, so they're dismissed. The people who did show up were like Doctor Strange, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Ms. Marvel. This is the part of the review that stops because I mentioned the name of Kamala Khan. Her name is pronounced Ms. Marvel. Pronouncing it Miss Marvel would be inaccurate. You used to be ignorant, and now if you continue saying it that way, you're stupid. Let's continue with the comic book. He meets up with his sister. You know how I feel about the sister. You know how I feel about the dead parents that came back. In Amazing Spider-Man, issue 355. I'm the know-it-all Nick. Actually, Nick Lowe, I like him. I like reading his editor's notes whenever he has something to say because I find it useful, and I think more people should be doing it. I can do without the nicknames before nickname. I think I get it now. Nick Lowe, nickname. But I can do without that stuff because it just takes space, and the less writing on my comics, the more I can appreciate the art. I can deal without it. But it's useful knowing that these things happen, even if it's for something stupid as dead parents returning. So he meets up with Teresa. The plan is to get the chameleon. The plan doesn't work out because when they do get there, first of all, when they get there and catch chameleon, she shoots to wound. So smart. That's so fitting of her. And then he leads them on somewhere where they find this dude over here. We learned about Ben Riley, the life model decoy, and you know how I feel about Ben Riley. We learn about nothing really. But Spider-Man right now has this clairvoyant, aka Spider Sense Enhanced, Peter Tingle Enhanced, and he uses that now. I like that he used it. I don't like what the page that happened after he used it. We got 2 full pages that did not advance the story. It didn't. What plot was furthered by showing Rasputin 4, Wolverine getting Sentinel blasted, a woman Spidey, a woman Captain America? That didn't advance nothing for me. I didn't care for it. I think what you could have done, let's flip the page, is show story, and in the background you could have had all of them people there. But I would have got 2 more pages of story worth. I didn't need that because the picture came across over here. It was very irrelevant. Asking for 2 pages of my comic to not further my story, that's not even subjective. It really objectively, in my objective opinion, it did not move this forward. He does meet up with Lila, an artificial construct brought to you by Alchemax. That doesn't mean anything to me. But a minute later, he's got a plan. What's the plan? It's a stupid plan because it involves Chameleon speaking in English, not his native tongue, not Latverian's language, to Dr. Doom. He's like, yeah, I see through it. It was a bad idea. And he blasts and kills Spider-Man. Spider-Man is dead. It was a good run. 1962, 2019. Yeah, I hate death in comic books because I don't believe it. Thor's head will be back on his shoulders when Donny Cates is writing him. So the cliffhanger was not effective. You gotta wow me on that final page. But the real final page was this. And let me tell you, I did not realize after looking at this checklist that we were 3/4 into this event. I ain't picking up tie-ins. I don't do that anymore. I respect my dollars. I see the people that are put on tie, the artists and writers, Fuck artists. I should have just said writers. The writers who are put on tie-in comics are of no significance. They're usually the main writer takes a break from it, like when Venom was written by Cullen Bunn rather than Donny Cates during War of Realms. When Dan Slott stopped writing Iron Man and Gail Simone picked it up to do her story, where actually she, in her story, wrote Iron Man needing the original suit that didn't have an artificial intelligence, and it helped her. Well, it's like that story didn't happen because in the most recent Iron Man, we got him using the original suit, which doesn't need an AI because the story called for it. Were you even reading that? Did it even happen? Because it's very uncreative to do the same thing in the same comic book. Is it the same comic book? No. Tie-ins are fantasy, much like the picture that we saw of things that didn't happen and don't matter to me in Marvel. Tie-ins don't matter. I didn't read Alpha #1, and I don't feel like I missed anything, and I'm not going to read Omega #1, also #1, even though Nick Spencer's on it. Still don't care, because I feel like I missed nothing. I feel like tie-in comics should be fights. Like Avengers vs. X-Men versus, that was a genius idea. I loved that. Reading, if I bring it up now, I gotta tell you what happened. I think the Thing fought Namor underwater. Wasn't that one of the battles? Magneto versus Iron Man, but he used a rubber suit. There were a bunch of versus battles in there that were cool. Colossus fought somebody too. Didn't everybody fought everybody, right? So I loved that idea where it's, here is a tie-in comic. It expands that first fight that you saw. Colossus versus Hulk, actually. Wasn't it a Colossus versus Red Hulk? It was that one. I love that. Give me those tie-ins. Then I could be like, I understand it's just gonna be sick-ass fighting. Some people like sick-ass fighting in their comics. Creative things like a punch that broke a wall, and now that that wall is broken, the hero is gonna use a chip from that, as his head is being pressed by the oppressor, he gets a broken part of that wall and stabs him. And he's selling his face, and he goes, like, it's so creative, and that's just coming from someone like me who's very pro wrestling. All my stories and my psychology comes from pro wrestling and the way that I think in that field. That's how I register these things. So if I were to use a pro wrestling terminology some more, I would say that tie-ins they're the cruiserweight division. The fans now, we know, this is happening on the cruiserweight division. The lights are purple in the arena. I don't need to be here for this. I can check out, washroom break. The cruiserweights would be the new writers, like who's in here? You know what? These are all big names. Nadler and Thompson. I don't know who they are, but they're doing the Punisher 2099. Ed Brisson is doing Ghost Rider 2099. I understand that because he got roped in because he's the Ghost Rider guy. He's the Ghost Writer. I don't know. I ranted on tie-ins for I think longer than I reviewed Amazing Spider-Man issue 35. Was it good? It was good. Didn't like the ending though because he's not dead. No one's dead. Yeah. Okay.